What's up, y'all? I'm Jonathan Stein. Welcome back to another piano tutorial. That was really dangerous what I just did. You should definitely try it at home with all of your expensive musical instruments. Today, I'm going to talk about the minor 7 flat 5 chord. This is also known as half diminished. And I'm going to show you why this chord is really, really Swess. So let's check it out, yeah? Y'all hype? Me too. Alright, first things first. What is the minor 7 flat 5? Well, let's break it down just from the language of what I just said. So we know about minor 7s. We've talked about these. These are used every day and pretty much in all 600 of the Neptunes tracks. Let's say I don't know what a C minor 7 flat 5 is. I'm going to start by just playing a C minor 7. That's a good place to start. Sounds about right to me. So now the 5, that's my middle finger, and I'm just going to drop that down a half step so it becomes G flat. There it is. Ooh. So we've just run into this chord for the first time, and it's interesting sounding. It's not something you hear too often, especially nowadays. The first things that come to mind for me is this kind of very old-time drama, kind of tragic, kind of sad, but not overly morbid. It has just kind of this crunchy, syrupy drippiness, and you know I like drippy chords. So let's just kind of get to know this chord. If you want, you could try moving it around, and obviously this is harder to do on piano than on push, but it's still something that's great to practice. So if I were to just kind of play around with moving it in other keys. And for this type of exercise where you're just trying to move a chord and keep it fixed in the same voicing, it's really helpful to go up and down chromatically, because then you could just keep the same general spacings of your fingers and just focus on sliding all your fingers exactly up or down a half step. And you should do this as well. We go back down now. Sounds very old-timey, you know, 1920s, 30s. Billy Strayhorn, Billie Holiday, Billy Bob Thornton, Billie Jean, Billy Crystal, all of those type of people. So why did I say that this chord is so Swess? Yeah, it's a cool chord. It's got lots of functionality that we haven't even scratched the surface on yet. But what makes this chord so special? Well, let's see what happens when we mess with the inversion. Inversions. This is where you take a set of notes, like a chord, or really any chord, really, any group of notes, and you just change the order that they're in. So this right now is what I guess would be considered root position, because it's root, third, flat fifth, flat seventh. So what happens if we start stacking the bottom note on top instead, moving this C up here? So now it becomes, whoa! Now this doesn't feel like a minor 7 flat 5 at all. It feels like a minor chord, but a different minor chord. It feels like an E flat minor with a major 6. Watch what happens when I suddenly put E flat in the bass. Same notes here. I'm gonna move it down the octave so it's juicy. Y'all know I like it thick. Whoa, and now we've got this sound. It's similar, they're related, they're coming from the same earthy, tomatoey seed, but it's different. And once again, still has that old-timey 20s, 30s feel, very rich and jazzy and syrupy. But different. It feels much more like a minor chord as opposed to a diminished chord. Now let's quickly go back. I'm going to keep this shape the same and just go back to putting a C in the bass. There's that sound. And now all of a sudden we move the bass note. Keep all this the same here to E flat. Whoa, interesting. So maybe you want to take a moment to move this one up and down by half steps. Take your time. It's not easy. Back down. Interesting. So that's two flavors that we've gotten just from inverting this chord. So what happens if we invert it again? What if we put now the E flat up top so that the G flat's on bottom? Now just the right hand is going to be G flat, B flat, C, E flat. And now we've got a different sound, but to make sure we're really hearing what we're hearing, let's reinforce it with a strong left hand bass note. Here we go. Ooh, this one's interesting. I feel like this one would be like in a fantasy platform video game. The Elder Scrolls 6 Dragonair, exclusively for PS0. And this is like the title screen. It's kind of angelic, but kind of mysterious and a little ominous too. You know it's going to be a really, really tough game that's going to consume, 40 hours of your useful life. So now let's take a look at this chord. Suddenly it feels like a major chord, and more interestingly, possibly a major 7 chord, although no 7th is indicated, and it has this very mysterious, mystical, heavenly sharp 11th, which I think we've talked about a little bit. Yeah, that interval here. And also a major 6, a little bizarre. So it's not quite one of these, which would be a major 7 sharp 11. It's this. But nonetheless, this comes from that same note set. We're kind of playing with it like Play-Doh to get different colors. Why don't you go ahead and move this up and down? This one also feels very gospel, like new age gospel. There's a reason for that. It's all coming from the same origins of this half-diminished minor 7 flat 5 shape that goes back hundreds of years and has kind of tree-branched into all these subgenres. So we've got one more inversion we could try. Now we're going to put that G flat up top, and now we've got B flat, C, E flat, G flat in the right hand, and we're going to put a nice strong B flat in the left hand. Interesting. This one seems to be the most stable of the 4. What are some qualities? It doesn't have a 3rd, it doesn't even have a 7th, it has a 4th and a flat 6 and a natural 9th. So this one feels more like it's still an E flat minor chord, but with B flat in the bass, which we would call a second inversion minor triad. That is when the 5th is in the bass of a triad. Now obviously this isn't a triad, it also has a 6th. But nonetheless, it's a very interesting color and chord that's also coming from those same notes. Okay, so where do we go from here? What if we take that same interval series, the minor 7 flat 5 that we've been practicing, back in the C minor 7, back with the bass of C, and let's put some different bass notes, some other ones. Here's a few really nice noticeable qualities in it. Here's our shape. Now watch what happens when we put a nice A flat below that. Ooh, now we get that rich, warm, fun, jazzy, French, Parisian, dominant 9 chord. Let's take a look. We got the root, the 3rd, the 5th, flat 7, flat 9. This is a beautiful, beautiful chord. It's nice in that register too. And once again, it's coming from that same note set. Now I got one more for you, and this might be the most interesting one. I just talked about this chord in the last video I did on 2-5-1s. Part 2 is this voicing here. Take that same C minor 7 flat 5, now play a D in the left hand. Oh, yes! So remember, this one here is a 7 flat 9 flat 13. And once again, it's just that same shape. That minor 7 flat 5, whatever you want to call it. Or maybe you don't want to call it that. Maybe you want to call it E flat minor major 6. Or maybe you want to call it G flat major 6 sharp 11. I wouldn't if I were you, but you could. The point is, it's all the same notes, just with different relativities on bottom. Think of a bass note on top of a set of notes, or a chord, or voicing as you will, as giving a set of notes some context. The context can change the entire meaning of what you're saying, of what those notes are. And if what those notes are and what you're saying is already meaningful and beautiful and purposeful and has thought, then that means that every contextualization of it is also going to be meaningful and purposeful. So quickly review a bunch of different bass notes to put over the same C minor 7 flat 5 that create beautiful, lovely, jazzy musical qualities. Obviously, you put C under it, E flat, G flat. This one's one of the most unstable, but you can put B flat. And a few wild card fun ones is the A flat to get that 9th chord. And lastly, but most definitely not least, D. Have fun exploring that voicing right there, that minor 7 flat 5 in all of its inversions and all of its keys, and try different bass notes under it. Maybe there's different ones that I don't even know about. Maybe there's different ones that nobody knows about that you are about to discover and explore. And if you do, please let me know what you find. Next week, I'm going to show you how to put together different sets of these minor 7 flat 5s to create beautiful 2-5-1s resolving to minor keys. Until then, so much love to y'all. Stay Swess.